Hello everyone, hope everybody is doing well. It's been a while that I haven't done a video, and I'll talk about what happened on the next video very likely. Today, Brightline high-speed rail stations, they have actually broke ground today. The high-speed rail system that's going to connect about a mile or two south of the Las Vegas Strip, traveling mostly along the median of Interstate 15 and then terminating at the city of Rancho Cucamonga, which is about 40 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. And I'm going to tell you why I support it, despite the fact that I'm not a fan of the California high-speed rail, on the other hand, as of right now. Okay, because we'll have to see how this goes. Now, first of all, I like to cover up one misunderstanding that's going on. Okay, there's a lot of people talking about the tickets are going to be $400 both ways. That's hard to believe. I think that is for first class, higher level seating, because when I look at one-way tickets from Orlando to Miami, tickets can be as low as $50. And they're about the same distance in Florida. So if it's done in Florida for about that same price, it should be done hardly any different from here in Las Vegas to Southern California. And by the way, the only thing, before I go on, I am not a fan of having two stations in the high desert, which one of them is in Victorville and the other one is in Apple Valley. I think they should remove one of them, because when you have so many stations, it reduces the overall speed time. We'll see how that turns out. And to kind of point out that there's not going to be a lot of demand for the service, I don't really believe that, because they do have the service in Florida. They have successfully been able to build it much faster than the California high-speed rail, and in many cases their tickets have been sold out. Now, why do I support it? Because I've traveled from here and back from Southern California many times on both airline and car travel. And many of you who've been subscribers to my YouTube channel, you'll find out that I used to do videos in Southern California. I used to live in Laguna Niguel. You guys remember a more greener background in some of my videos when I was outside. So I still go back there, see my relatives every 2-3 months. Traveling there on airline has been a pain in the butt many times. A lot of times they won't let me fly because I didn't check in the appropriate time, even though the flight was boarding 50 minutes after I got into the airport. Many times they have issues with what I bring into the airplane, so it's like, okay, I bring too much food, or some cases where the flight gets delayed several times. I mean, I was at the Burbank airport, which, by the way, was one of the most hideous airports I've ever been to, the Burbank Hollywood airport, along with the Memphis airport. And the flight got delayed about 2-3 times. It was very, very frustrating. This is why we need alternatives to this system. The seats are very tiny, and I know people can say, well, one-way tickets are about $35, $45. But what kind of experience are you getting in that? I believe the Brightline seating experience, the service, is certainly going to be much, much better. And then a lot of people talk about car travel. Well, you have to spend a good amount of money in gas. Could be about $40, could be $100. Who knows? Some people can point out that gas can be $7 a gallon again, especially in California. And by the way, our gas prices are much higher than the national average, because we mainly get our supplies from California. So when there's a refinery outage in El Segundo or Torrance, prices here in Vegas and in Phoenix actually goes up as well. So yes, it can take 3 hours on car to go to Rancho Cucamonga, but sometimes it can be 7 hours, because you've got that traffic where visitors are getting ready to leave. There have been issues where there's accidents. A truck can explode in the middle of the freeway, and that can cause an extra 2-hour delays. And just imagine if you have to go to the bathroom. Thank God I'm a guy, because it's harder to go to the bathroom if you're a woman. There's not a lot of stops in between. Think about it. There's not a lot of alternative routes. I mean, what is your alternative route? Let's say if an explosion happens in between Jean and Prim, what alternative route do you have? You go down the 95 highway and then bypass through Searchlight and then back to the 15 freeway near Nipton. Is that really an alternative route? Not really. So that's where really the issue is. And not to mention, there could be issues that can happen to your car. It could break down. You never really know. But here's the real issue. I think it's the high-speed rail system is going to be very, very helpful. Now, a lot of people argue that Vegas has gone downhill. Their services, their prices. And I've done a lot of videos exposing the casino elites, especially the former CEO of Jim Murin, who not had a negative influence in our state politically, but in terms of the pricing, the nickel and diming. And he's the one that, correct me if I'm wrong, introduced the resort fees shortly after the financial crisis. But about 8 or so years ago, he introduced parking fees and valet fees. I've had a lot of relatives that used to visit Las Vegas regularly, and now they don't come anymore because of the parking fees. Well, those same relatives, many of whom I have my aunt and my uncle that live in Rancho Cucamonga. I used to live there actually from 1996 to 2009. I spent the majority of my childhood in that city. They're more likely to come because they realize if they can take a train within a few miles of where they live and then come to Las Vegas and not have to deal with valet, parking, driving, and all that other stress that comes with it, they're more likely to come. And this could spell doom for a lot of these hotel operators who think they can make all these profits from parking. They realize the revenue is driving up from parking. They're boycotting their systems, and maybe they'll have to change their policy. Now, not exactly to where it was in 2015, but maybe they can hopefully have parking on the really busy days where you have these sporting concert events, and then they can make the weekdays for free or something like that. That's what I would do, personally. They actually do that, for an example, in the Westgate Hotel. You have to pay for parking when there's a busy convention event, but when there's no convention event, it's actually complimentary. At least that's what happened to me when I went to the Barry Manilow event last year. And he did a pretty good job, by the way. And so in addition, you can avoid parking when you arrive at the station. Now again, the station is across from the South Premium Outlets. You come over there, and then what happens is that you'll be able to be picked up by a rideshare, taxi, limo, or whatever service. I don't know if the monorail is going to be extended there. I doubt it. And I'll do another video about that. Or more importantly, the Vegas Loop, I believe, is planning extension to the Brightline station, and they'll be able to pick you up and then take you exactly where you need to go. You could hopefully even go to the airport. Let's say if you could not get a flight in Southern California, you can go there, you can go to downtown, you can go even to Chinatown, wherever. It's going to be a lot more efficient. And also, this is a very important deal for people like myself because, as you know, the main reason why I moved to Las Vegas was because I moved here to build a master planned development 40 miles south of the Las Vegas Strip. So as you know, the Brightline is going to go through the planned airport that is being planned, the secondary one in the Inverpah Valley, which is, they're planning to actually have a station next to that planned airport. And what we can do is build like transit services connecting to those new planned cities that I'm talking about, so that way we can spur a lot of activities down there. And in addition, we can hopefully build another transit system that will take you to those newly planned areas, which is one of them hopefully is personal rapid transit, which I've talked about. I've interviewed somebody on this channel about. And I'll discuss that later in a future video. Now, what's very interesting is that there's a lot of negative comments about, oh yeah, there's a lot of taxpayer-funded subsidies to this plan. Look, I'll get to the problems with that later on, but if you are complaining about taxpayer-funded subsidies to these transit projects, but you're okay with taxpayer-funded subsidies going to the Interstate 11 extension from here to Phoenix, which I also support, depending on how it's built, Because remember, gas taxes do not fully cover all the car infrastructure we have, and that's just not just highway infrastructure, but many of the stroads, arterials, collector routes that we take. A lot of them are funded by sales taxes, property taxes, I believe. If you are not criticizing that, well, then you believe in double standards. I have to be honest with you. Now, let me address some of the issues. I know the California high-speed rail has a lot of issues, and I suspect that there's a lot of money laundering going on, and I'm not a fan of the green agenda that's being pushed by the establishment. I know there's a lot of crooked politicians that are likely doing money laundering, and I know there's a lot of crooked politicians that are supporting this. I know that rail projects in this part of the world can cost a lot more on average per mile than other developed countries. I know there's a lot of issues with that. But we need something like this to shake up the transportation system because, again, the status quo is not working very well. And you can pretty much bet that these politicians, they're not doing this because they really care about us, but it's simply because they're trying to pander to the union votes to get reelected. Because we know that Secretary P, Jackie Rose, and all these people, they want the union votes because they know it's an important election year to keep things going. But the bottom line is that Florida has been able to do this a lot more efficiently, a lot more faster by the same company, and I'm very optimistic this is going to go through. Now, there's also another issue which I can't talk about on my YouTube channel, which I've talked about it before, and it's got taken down, believe it or not, because I talk about this subject, and that issue is particularly demographics. And I know a lot of you are not happy with those kinds of people that may ride the train, which I'm not going to get into. We've seen the mess in other transit systems and even in airports or airplanes. I can talk about what I saw in Atlanta, which I'm okay, but I guess you know what I'm talking about. Now, maybe there's a reason why they have first-class seating for that obvious reason. Then again, what can we do, folks? I still think that the positives will likely outweigh the negatives. Now, there's a lot of other negative arguments, such as, well, if I'm trying to get to Southern California, I'm going to land in Rancho Cucamonga. Then what? How do I get to other parts of Southern California? Now, I know a lot of you are not a fan of buses, rideshare, and then you have to go through the traffic congestion because it can be really brutal for much of the day in Southern California, like from 2 p.m. to 7 at night. I understand it, and especially if you're going on the 91 freeway, that can be such a son of a gun. Now, if you look at myself, yeah, not all of you like myself have relatives in Rancho Cucamonga. My mom still happens to live in Laguna Niguel. So how do I get there? Now, the Metrolink you can use, it's not all that great. Yes, you can take that for another hour to downtown Los Angeles, but Metrolink does take you to Laguna Niguel. They have a station there within walking distance of where I used to live, along with Mission Viejo. I can take that system, or I can have, my relatives pick me up and then take me to wherever I need to go. Now, obviously, going back to what I was talking about, I do support the personal rapid transit system, which they are planning to build in San Jose, and I interviewed some of those people around that vicinity, which will be a lot more efficient and cheaper to build to get to your closer to exact destination of where you need to go. So this is why we need both systems to really keep us going. And obviously, when you take the Metrolink to downtown Los Angeles, then you can take the Metro system, the heavy rail, light rail system to take you to Hollywood, Santa Monica, hopefully Beverly Hills, and pretty much the list goes on. Okay, and I know some of my friends, I have one in Beverly Hills, doesn't like this system or the subway that's being planned there, but look, I really think it's going to bring a whole lot of other benefits. It's going to be a lot faster and more efficient for me to get there. I don't have to deal with the stress of airlines. I could bring like 2 bags of my items, like groceries over there. Well, I don't think I'm really going to have to do grocery shopping in Southern California because, for one thing, we are getting an Aldi's out here in Henderson. This is shortly after we got the grocery outlet that just opened last year, believe it or not. We didn't have a grocery outlet. But anyway, I really think this high-speed rail is going to offer a lot of benefits. I think it's a step forward. Do I think that high-speed rail is going to replace all long-term car and airline travel? No. I don't think that high-speed rail anytime soon is going to be the alternative from getting here to the San Francisco Bay Area, because we have to deal with terrain issues. I do think the system is going to be beneficial when it comes to travel, especially in the Midwest, the Atlantic coast, and even portions of the nation of Canada that are around the Great Lakes. I don't think we're going to get to the levels of Europe and East Asia anytime soon. From what I heard, Iran is focusing on high-speed rail travel as well as parts of the Middle East. So we'll have to really see how this goes along. But just think about it. You know, we're having a lot of international travelers. They don't want to get on the airplane. I see them a lot. They don't want to have to rent a car. The high-speed train is going to help them a lot. Now, if you have visitors coming from Northern Europe, they want to check the excitement out here in Las Vegas or even in Canada, and then they want to get on the high-speed rail, go to Southern California, check out the beaches and everything, because I think both are very, very important to look at. So anyway, you let me know what you think. Do you think this will be successful? Let me know in the comments section below, and stay tuned. I will have more updates to come. Oh, and by the way, I was actually thinking about going to the celebration where we had all these politicians, and look, I could have confronted them. I could have got on their face, but then again, you have to look at professionalism and all that, so you really have to see exactly what's going on and whether, you know, you make a move, whether it's worth it or not. But other than that, thank you guys so much. Please stay tuned. I'll see you.